Hello and welcome to a special bonus episode of Stories for Wonderful Children. This story is a little different, told only this week, so you'll notice that the children are older, but I promise you they're no less wonderful. Enjoy the story. It had been quite the day. It had started as soon as he had gotten up, with getting to open some of his birthday presents. Most of his birthday presents had been exactly what he had asked for, which was Lego. Now, Katie, if you were going to give someone Lego for their birthday, what sort of Lego would you give them?
Probably a Lego thing that it was of something that they were interested in.
Well, like what?
If he's interested in airplane, give him a Lego airplane set.
Good. Like that. Diana, if you were giving someone Lego for their birthday, what sort of Lego would you choose?
I would choose Transformers.
Transformer Lego.
Maybe that's a good one.
So, Ruchira, for his birthday, had gotten airplane Lego, had gotten Transformer Lego, had gotten Star Wars Lego, had gotten Ninjago Lego. Every relative he had gotten him Lego of one kind or another, and as he had opened them, a plan had begun to form in his mind. And so, once he had opened his Lego and had his breakfast and hugged his mom as she left for work at the hospital, Ruchira had started on his birthday project. He had disappeared into his room with all of his Lego, and he had worked on this project. He had started working on it, and then, after he had worked on it for a couple hours, he had gone and found his father and asked his dad. He said, "Dad, my Lego project that I'm working on is getting too big for my room. Is it okay if I build it out in the garage for a little while?" And his father had said, "That's fine, Ruchira. What are you working on?" And Ruchira had said, "It's a project." "What sort of project?" his father had asked. "It's a birthday project," Ruchira had said. And so his father had waved him on to the garage, and Ruchira had made several trips up and down from his room, carting pieces of something hidden underneath a blanket. And then, later in the day, his father had seen Ruchira going out into the backyard, carting more pieces of something, as well as a bag of M&Ms. And finally, Ruchira had decided his project was finished. And so he had come back into the house, and immediately he had smelled the delicious smells of his father cooking his favorite birthday meal. And his tummy had started to rumble, and so he had gone into the kitchen, where his father was working his cooking magic, and he had asked him, "When are we going to eat? I'm starting to get hungry." And his father had said, "So are you all done with your project then?" And Ruchira had said, "Yes, I'm done for now. There's one part that I'm not quite finished with, but it should be done soon." And his father had said, "Well, dinner's almost ready. We're just waiting for your mom to get home." And just then his father's cell phone had rung. And he had taken out of his pocket. He'd said, "Hello?" And then he said, "Uh-oh. Oh, no. Well, dinner's almost ready. Yeah, I can put it on warmer and we'll come get you." And he had put his phone back in his pocket. He said, "Ruchira, go get your brother. We've got to go get in the car and get your mother. Her car has had a dead battery and had to be towed, and so we have to go pick her up from the hospital. And so Ruchira had gone and gotten his brother and gotten his brother's shoes on, and they had met his father in the garage. When they got into the garage, they looked out, and his father had seen that there was their car, and next to their car was an enormous something underneath a tarp. His father had just walked on by and gotten in their car. They had all gotten in, they had turned the key, and the car had gone. Oh no. What's wrong with the car, Dad? Said Ruchira. His father had said, I'm not sure. It was running fine yesterday. And Ruchira had said, It's okay, Dad. I've got my project. And he had hopped out and gone to the tarp and pulled it off. And underneath it was an enormous Lego truck. Now, Ruchira had built trucks before, but this was not just a truck. This was a truck. It was enormous. It had 6 wheels, and in the back, behind the place for everyone to sit, there was a big wheel. His father had gotten out of the car, holding his little brother, and said, What's the wheel in the back for, Ruchira? And Ruchira said, That's the wheel where the marshmallow rabbits run, in order to power it. And his father had said, Marshmallow rabbits? I don't think we have marshmallow rabbits in Texas. And Ruchira had said, I think we do. I set a trap for some out in the backyard. Let's go see if they're there. And so they had gone out in the backyard, and there was a trap. And inside the trap there was a little cup with M&Ms behind clear plastic, and inside the trap there were a good 15 or 20 marshmallow rabbits hopping around. It was hard to tell how many there were, really, because they were hopping around so busily. And Ruchira said, See? And so he and his father had hauled the marshmallow rabbit trap out to the Lego truck, and they had carefully put the marshmallow rabbits into the wheel, and the rabbits had immediately begun to run. They ran faster and faster, so fast that the wheel on the back of the truck was a blur, and Ruchira said, Quick, get in! And they had all hopped into the truck. His father had hopped into the driver's seat and promptly looked at the panel full of buttons and no steering wheel. He said, How do you drive this thing? And Ruchira said, Scoot over, Dad. I'll drive. And his father said, Oh, I don't know if that's a good idea, Ruchira. You're not old enough to drive. And Ruchira had said, I'm not old enough to drive a car or a truck, but a Lego truck? That I'm old enough to drive. I built it. I know what all the buttons do. And so his father had said, Okay, just drive carefully. And so he'd scooted over. They had all put their seatbelts on, because even a Lego truck needs seatbelts. And Ruchira had pressed the appropriate button, and they had backed out of the driveway and headed off towards the hospital. Now they were about halfway there on the freeway when suddenly Ruchira had to press the big red button, and the Lego truck had come to a sudden and complete stop, because in front of them there was a traffic jam. As far as they could see, the traffic was stopped, and Ruchira's tummy rumbled. It was his birthday. His birthday meal was warm and waiting for him at home, and between him and his mother and his birthday dinner was this traffic jam. His father pulled out his phone. He said, I'll have to call your mother and tell her we'll be late. And Ruchira said, No, it's okay, Dad. There are still buttons we haven't used. And so Ruchira pressed another button, and there was a clunk and a whir and a slightly louder clunk. And then Ruchira said, Look. And he leaned out one window, and his father and his little brother leaned out the other window. And above them, they could see that the Lego truck had now sprouted a helicopter rotor on the top of it. And his father said, "Can this thing fly?" And Ruchira had said, "Well, almost." "How does something almost fly?" his father asked. "Well," said Ruchira, "it can fly, but marshmallow rabbits don't supply quite enough power to get it off the ground." "Well, then how are we going to get over this traffic jam?" said his father. "Don't worry," said Ruchira. "I brought the rest of the M&Ms." "What are you going to catch with M&Ms now?" said his father. "Well," said Ruchira, "the best way to power a flying Lego truck is with chocolate peregrine falcons." "And," said his father, "those like M&Ms?" "Of course," said Ruchira. "Chocolate peregrine falcons love M&Ms better than just about anything else. Watch." And he stuck his hand out the window with a big handful of M&Ms, and he tossed them way up into the air. And then they heard the sound, this sound, which was all the M&Ms just falling back down and hitting the roof of the truck and the highway. "I don't see any falcons," said his father. "They must not have seen the first throw," said Ruchira. "I'll throw some more." And he reached into his bag of M&Ms, and he tossed them up into the air. And again you just heard the sound, patter, 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 of M&Ms hitting the roof of the truck and hitting the highway. "Okay," said Ruchira. "Last handful." And he reached into the very bottom of his M&M bag, the very last of them, and he threw them up in the air, and they waited, and they did not hear the sound of them hitting the ground. And Ruchira's father stuck his head out the window, and he looked up, and mounted on that rotor on the top were a dozen dark brown birds, and they were flapping their wings, gripping the rotor in their raptor claws, and the rotors of the Lego truck began to spin faster and faster, and it rose up into the air over the traffic jam, and Ruchira pressed the appropriate button, and they steered their way to the hospital. And there they picked up his mother, who was standing there, looking very surprised to see them all arriving in a flying Lego truck, because the flying Lego truck had not been there when she had left for work that morning. "Well," she said, "this is certainly a birthday surprise." "Get in, Mom," said Ruchira. "Dinner's getting cold." And so his mother had gotten in, and they had driven back home just as fast as you please. And dinner was not cold, I am happy to say. It was still warm and ever so delicious. And that was a birthday worth remembering. And that's the end. Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created, told, and edited today's story. Questions and witty commentary were supplied by my children. The music was composed by Brandon Thompson. If you enjoy the show, please tell someone about it, or leave a review on your podcast provider. Our email is storiesforwonderfulchildren@gmail.com. You can also contact us on Facebook or Twitter. I'll see you next time.